Welcome to FO Talks. With me is Sebastian Schaefer. He's the head of the Institute for the Danube. They are experts on Central and Eastern Europe. He is based in Vienna, a city I recently visited, though I missed him. So here I am in London with Sebastian, one of our closest partners, to make sense of the flooding in Central and Eastern Europe. Welcome, Sebastian.
Thank you very much, Atul, for having me again.
Brilliant. So tell us what is going on in Central and Eastern Europe. I very nearly didn't reach Vienna. It was touch and go. Seemed a moment when I would have to fly out of Munich back to London. This is something which in Europe it seems unprecedented. So you imagine flooding in India, in Pakistan, in Africa, in other parts of the world, but this seems to be quite severe and shall we say new.
Yes, I mean they have been labeling it as one of the one in a century flood, but I think unfortunately we will see that more often, and we have had in the last decades these one in a century floodings. In general, I sort of have the feeling that we are experiencing these one in a century events, not only floods, but pandemics, war on the continent, in an increasing pace. And this is, of course, very worrisome. Now, for Vienna, yes, it was. I mean, there was interruption in the public transportation. There was the challenge that certain train connections have been also interrupted, but the severe hit of the flood in Austria was in Lower Austria, the land surrounding Vienna, where we have a death toll of 6 and unfortunately possibly more. Amongst them also a fireman, and that was helping to alleviate the situation. And yes, it's a situation that results out of several factors.
Let me stop you before you go into the causes. How many countries are affected? What area? How many people? You've given us death in Austria. But how many displaced? So paint us a picture first of what is going on, and then we get into the why.
Yeah, the overall area that is affected is more or less what we are covering at the institute. So Central Europe along the Danube, but also over that we are covering more than just countries that are located directly at the Danube. For instance, Poland, and Poland is also amongst the countries that has been severely affected. There have also been, for instance, in Romania, additionally to the flooding, there was an earthquake that came coinciding with the flooding that is there. I honestly have no number of how many people have been affected, but it is in the thousands. And the damage will be in unfortunately billions. The European Union, the new Commission President von der Leyen is traveling to Poland, but has also already announced that the package can be up to 1.5 billion that would be used to support and help the affected countries in the European Union and beyond.
So it's a large area, and it's a large number of people, and it's a high value when it comes to damage of property.
Yeah.
Are the agricultural crops affected? Because this tends to be harvest season.
Yes, I mean there's of course also challenges in various fields. It's not only the private households that have been flooded. There is of course also severe affection in as you mentioned, agriculture in the agricultural sector, but of course there's disruption in supply chains. Again, as I said, there has been train connections that have been that had to stop, that are slowly returning only now. There's of course certain motorways that were not possible to be used. And I think the overall, this is what the overall cost of it is driving this, especially up here. But of course, the major challenge that I see is especially trying to find possibilities for the private households that are affected to be able to return some sort of housing before the winter is there. Yeah, so I think there will be a certain urgency to restore possibilities to return, to prevent that they are
that people are homeless before winter. That would
yeah,
be, or during winter, that would be exacerbating the problem and could cause deaths due to cold.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So now let's get into why.
Mm.
Why? I mean, of course, the simple answer, some would say it's climate change, but there's more to it than just two words. So why is there flooding of such great proportion in Bangalore? To give you a comparative example, when there was flooding, unprecedented too, people found that there had been unplanned urban explosion, and uh, many people, including billionaires, were building on lake beds, so natural water uh, runways had been blocked. More, not just climate change, but of course, man-made um, interference with nature was causing a lot of these problems. Also, the cutting down of trees means that in a lot of parts of the world, the soil retains more water. So in the case of Central and Eastern Europe, give us, say, 5, 6 key reasons why we are seeing such unprecedented flooding.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, I'm not so sure if the majority have been billionaires that have been building estates, but of course the building and the sealing of the soil is absolutely contributing to this. And you see that, I mean, I'm not
The
no
water is not seeping in. It's now built concrete. Trees have gone, so that's the other contributing factor.
Yeah, and there's a lot of soil covered in concrete. They have been talking in Austria, for instance. I didn't know that. I just learned that now, that there were talks already in the 1990s that this is a 10th country within Austria. We have the division, the subdivision on the local level in 9 so-called Länder. So and the amount
similar to Germany,
exactly
divided into Länder, which in the US context or even the Indian context means different states within the country.
Exactly. And there have been talks that this sealing of the soil has been so much that there's basically a 10th state that has been coming out of this. And this, of course, if there is the situation, again, I'm no meteorologist, but as I understood from what I read, that we have had very peculiar conditions with the cold front hitting a warmer front that led to a rainfall that was almost the yearly amount that would be raining down in the state of Lower Austria within a couple of days. And then if you do not have the possibility that this water disperses, this, of course, contributes then to these severe floodings. And in Vienna, the situation was a little bit alleviated because it was actually not so much the Danube, it was the Vienna river. There's a
The
river,
Veen River.
the Wienfluss, exactly, the Wien River, that has a huge. If you are there normally and you look at the riverbed within the city, and you see the small amount of water that goes through it.
Trickle. It's a
Yeah,
trickle. The
it
last
is.
time I was in Vienna,
Yeah,
Wien was a trickle, and I thought, is
yeah,
this a river or is this a
yeah,
stream?
yeah, exactly. And now you've seen probably that it's completely up to almost over flooding, and then it would go into one of the metro lines, and that would have caused even more severe damage. So it was close. There was, of course, also contributing for instance, Danube Island that alleviated the situation here a little bit. But overall, in general, I think the conditions that are set, that there is no more the possibility that this water disperses
Mm.
freer and can also trickle into the ground, is certainly one of the big contributors to this. But then, of course, also the very severe weather conditions caused by certainly climate change. Yeah.
So two things. One is abnormally high rainfall, and two is man-made changes to the natural landscape by
Mhm.
having far too much concrete, and thereby having less soil cover, less tree cover, and that leads to, when there is abnormal rainfall, then water has nowhere to go and it floods. So
Yeah.
those seem to be not unique to Europe. These seems to be global. The US is seeing this. Um, Other countries in Africa have seen this. Countries in South Asia have seen this. So this seems to be part of a broader pattern. The question I have for you is, what do you think are likely to be the changes that occur in Europe because of this? Because
Mm.
in some countries, let's say in the US, they built the levees up after New Orleans was flooded. So, and now they're maintaining the levees. They're trying to fight the change in climate, the change in water levels through technology. In other countries, such as India, there's a fatalism. Well, this is the will of God. We just go with the flow. How is Europe going to act?
Yeah. Well, one thing that certainly will alleviate the situation a bit is the nature restoration law that was passed and came into effect actually only a month ago. I think it was
So
maybe.
let me stop you. Is this a regulation from the European Commission in Brussels, or
Yeah.
is this a law which the Viennese Parliament has drafted?
No, that's from the EU.
So it's a regulation.
Yeah, but it's still
Got it.
called even on from the EU side, it's called um, the Nature Restoration Law,
Got it. Got
and
it.
it's something that has been in the works for say around about 4 years. I think it was first
I see.
introduced in 2020. There was a lot of discussion around it. The overall point is that 20% of the area within the European Union should be renaturalized, so that we uncover the soil, for instance. And here,
So let it go back to forests or grasslands or whatever
yes, yeah,
the natural state was. The 20%, one-fifth of the area
yeah,
is to be
yeah,
renaturalized.
yeah. This is
This is a
something.
major law.
Yeah, it is.
This is a bit like Teddy Roosevelt setting up national parks in the US.
I wasn't aware of that actually, but yeah, you might compare it in that way. What was a bit more peculiar here is, of course, that we have 27 states, as you know,
Mm,
that need to agree on this. It
ratified.
was on the brink of failing.
I see.
There were, if I remember correctly, it was 6 countries that were voting against it, amongst them Hungary, Finland, and the Netherlands.
Mhm.
And if there would have been one more country voting against it, then it would have failed. And the one country that was heavily debating it was, ironically, Austria. And the responsible minister for the environment from Austria, from the Green Party, was voting in favor of that nature restoration law, which caused a harsh struggle for the governing coalition, because the conservative ÖVP didn't want the minister to accept it. Now we've upcoming elections in less than 2 weeks, in 10 days actually, and it remains to be seen if this will have an impact still on the election and on the result of the Green Party, which would not be the first time that a natural disaster influences an election. There was in 2002 in Germany, there was also flooding that
which allowed Gerhard Schroeder to come back, because he acted heroically in the eyes of many to save the people from the floods.
Exactly. And so here, this is going to be a question, and it's especially interesting because the lead candidate of the Social Democrats, he is also the mayor of a city in Lower Austria, and he has been, going back and supporting, and of course had these images that he could provide, just a little bit like Gerhard Schröder, when he put on the rubber boots. But I don't know if this will change the course of the election drastically. However, it's an unknown factor, because environmental protection certainly was not on the top of the issues debated so far. Anyway, coming back to that, so one of the things that we might see is that now we have at least not only the talk, because we have seen, I mean, there have been not these severe floods, but still there was flooding on a quite regular basis. We remember Ahrtal in Germany, actually before the election, where again a social democratic chancellor then came into office. We have seen that in especially the Western Balkans only a couple of years, I think it was a decade ago maximum. And this is returning, and we knew what the challenge is, but we did not act upon it accordingly. So this is not something that has been on the top of the agenda. This nature restoration law now makes it binding, and this might be a game changer here. The question is it going to be enough? Is it going to be fast enough to prevent these severe floodings from happening also in the future? And this remains to be seen.
Excellent. So two consequences from the floods. One is, of course, the nature restoration law that may be the silver lining that emerges from these tragic floods. And two is that the Green Party in Austria may get a fillip in elections that are within 10 days, as we speak. Anything else you foresee emerging from floods? Do you think there would be some economic reform? Do you foresee some boosts because of the influx of $1.5 billion that Ursula von der Leyen is promising?
I think that we will hear. It remains to be seen, because the challenge is that it's just
early days.
So it will be taken a bit of time to assess the actual overall damage, and one can only hope that, of course, if you do that, and I think this was one of the things that in previous floodings, at least to a certain extent, the consequences were that you did not just like renovate the places that have been affected, but also try to pay attention that it doesn't happen again, because
Understood.
it's a huge also burden on the question, for instance, do we have to have mandatory flood insurance if you are a homeowner? And if you have that, this will of course increase burden on people that are trying to rent, which would be continuing the housing crisis.
Correct. Then if they take flood insurance, then obviously that gets added onto rent, and that adds to the cost of living crisis, which is a global phenomenon. Japan is experiencing it, actually South Korea even more so, and all the way to the US, and is partly the reason behind the rise of populism in many countries. So there's a spillover effect.
So I don't see that it might be a positive boost, but rather I see more challenges. And
see more challenges.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean the question of if there will be also midterm effects is certainly an interesting one, but I would say it's too early to assess this right now. What I can say is there's more elections coming up. We have, for instance, there's elections now this weekend in Germany. It's less affected by the flooding in Brandenburg, but still that might also change a bit the course, because here the far right is very notorious in denying any man-made climate change.
I see.
We have floodings in Czechia that are quite severe. They have elections this weekend for the Senate. There might be implications for the local communities there.
So just to stop you, flooding is likely to help the Green Party, but it may also end up, if it imposes economic costs it may also end up helping the far right.
It's
Too early.
Yeah, because you know that, I mean, for instance, for the Austrian elections, 10 days is a lot of time, no?
I mean, who was it? Was it Sir Anthony Eden who said a week is a long time in politics?
Yeah. And so that might have been, a bit too early to have consequences. Then on the other hand, research also shows that a decision of voting is not taken in the last days, because majority of the people, they you do not win the election in the last days. You win the election.
Depends on the country, though, Sebastian. Depends on the country.
And the electoral system. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there, for instance, in the US presidential election, we have a different situation.
Yeah. The last week, it's almost too early even now to comment, because ultimately it is the undecided voters who decide, and they will make their mind up towards the end. It'll go right down to the wire. The same holds true for, we don't need to go into, but many other countries, including Israel, where lots of decisions are last minute, and you have proportional representation, and an event can sway people. One attack can sway people. So it depends on the country. But in Europe, it seems that what you're saying, studies show that the last week is not so critical. The last 10 days is not so critical.
There might be, if it's close between parties, if they are close together, like it has been the case, for instance, in 2002 with the CDU, CSU, and the SPD.
Yeah. We keep going back to the German election, where no one expected Schroeder to win. I was there in 2002 in Germany. And I remember meeting SPD MPs through luck, not through chance, not design. And they said they expected to lose. And then, of course, I go back to the UK, and Schroeder pulls off that phenomenal upset victory. So, but please carry on.
Yeah, but I don't. So, I mean, the Green Party is not in the decision here in that sense. Yeah, we might see a bit of a change between ÖVP, FPÖ, maybe also SPÖ, but the Green Party will not necessarily change the overall outcome in a sense that you need a coalition government anyway. The question could be if the ÖVP comes first or if the FPÖ comes first. If the FPÖ loses a couple of votes due to that, then there might be a change. But on the other hand, I don't see that these the majority of the supporters will be making up their minds just because there was a flood.
Got it. But still, in the long run, major changes to come. The issue of the regreening is now in focus, and economically, the damage and the long-term costs in terms of flood insurance hang in balance. So, major consequences to these unprecedented floods. Well, Sebastian Schäfer, thank you very much for your time. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Next, we talk about immigration in Germany and the sealing of the borders, which is new and unprecedented in the post-1991 era or the post-1989 era after German reunification. Lots to discuss with you and lots to explore. So to make sense of Europe, watch us. To make sense of the world, watch us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. And those of you who read newsletters, subscribe to our newsletters. They are free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Atul. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you for having me again.
Thank you, sir.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.